What's up, everybody? I'm Michael.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we're going to be answering the question, do I have high standards or am I just too picky?
How would you define high standards?
Okay, so I have an interesting approach. I believe that there are no such thing as high standards. Yeah, I just feel like there's a standard that you have, and for you, like your standard may be high, but then when someone else looks at your standard, it's like, oh, that standard is not very high. Like I remember there being a point in time where even in our marriage, we did date nights once every few months. And we thought that we were like, oh yeah, like we have a good marriage. And then we started doing date nights once a week. And now it's like, wow, like that standard that once seemed super high is now just a standard. You know what I mean?
That's good.
And so it's not that a standard is high. This is my personal opinion. I don't believe people have high standards. I believe people have standards that are based upon who they are as a person.
That's really
and
good.
the amount of maturity they have as a person, the amount of growth they have as a person. You know, the standard for food that my 3-year-old has is different than the standard of food that I have. He'll eat like pizza and hot dogs and whatever, and you know, he'll be like, whatever about steak and salmon. You know what I mean? So I believe that there are no such thing as high standards. I just believe that you have standards.
I totally agree. And that's such a fresh perspective. I believe that your standards need to be in alignment with who you are. So you need to be your own standard, and that standard that you have for yourself set the standard for other people.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes. So
That's really
if
good.
you want someone who goes to the gym and takes care of themselves, then you must first be the one to take care of yourself and work out and stay fit. If you want someone who wholeheartedly pursues the Lord, is in church, preaching, all of that, then you set the standard and you be that person. You serve, you make yourself available, and you show that you are about this life. Let me put it this way. If there's a healthy church and an unhealthy, toxic person comes into that healthy church, eventually that healthy culture is going to squash out and push out that unhealthy person, because that unhealthy person doesn't have anybody to gossip with. That unhealthy person doesn't have anybody who's going to feed into their dysfunction. And so eventually they'll get discouraged and they'll leave.
Yep.
And in the same regard, an unhealthy church culture is going to push out a healthy person, because a healthy person can stay in an unhealthy environment for so long until they say, I'm better than this. This ain't it. This is not for me. It's the same thing when it comes to dating and relationships. Mm-hmm. If you have high standards and you are personifying what it is that you're asking for, if someone comes along and they are not in alignment with it, eventually you are going to push them out of your life. So as long as you are embodying what it is that you're asking for, you are going to get what it is that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And the concept that Amanda talked about earlier is the way our bodies work, right? It's like if you are a healthy person and then something that's not good, like you eat something and it had like E. coli or something in it, like you're just going to spit that back out. You know what I mean? And it's for the sake of your health, right?
That's good.
And so it's important that you understand, Amanda has said this before, but like you attract what you are, and you can't have a standard for another individual that's higher than the one that you hold yourself to.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. So for some people, they're going to hear this and they're going to say, cool, I'll just go with the flow. But there are obviously non-negotiables, you know, so like what would you say those are?
Some non-negotiables are you need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. The person that you are going to attract also needs to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And in order for you guys to be on level footing and be able to sharpen one another and grow in purpose together, you guys need to be going in the same direction. And that means you're going towards Christ. The scripture says, don't be unequally yoked. And what that means is back in the day, 2 animals would be put into this harness, and the harness had holes for 2 necks, the same animal in both of them, so they can go in the same direction, so they can plow. But when you put an ox and a donkey together, the donkey is lazy, but the ox is very hardworking and diligent. And so the ox will be trying to go in one direction while the donkey's just being dragged or trying to go in a different direction, and you get nowhere fast. And so a non-negotiable that you must have is, hey, we're both oxes. We're both following Jesus Christ. We're both going in the same direction.
Yep.
What are some other non-negotiables?
Well, that's the really big one. And I personally believe that, other non-negotiables are very much so dependent on the individual. Like I had my personal non-negotiables, like you have to get along with my mom, but for some people, they don't have a relationship with their mom. So I'm not going to put like a blanket statement of a one-size-fits-all concept on everybody, because that's not fair. And so I believe that Jesus, not God, because you know how us millennials are. We can be like, oh, I got a relationship with God, the universe. I'll like pray and meditate, on my head, and like, heat up these stones and smoke some hookah. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's just like, y'all are like, that's just a different direction.
That's a donkey.
The Bible calls it something else, but we'll save that for the word. So we talked about the non-negotiables, right? But let me ask you this. Is attraction a non-negotiable? Like, do you have to be attracted to the person?
I believe that's a personal preference. So there's a difference between standards and non-negotiables and having preferences. Now, when it comes to your preferences, you need to know how strong those preferences are. So what I would suggest to you is, hey, if a certain preference is high on your list, write that down and put that high on your list and be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. If attraction isn't very important to you, then put it low on the list. Or don't even put it on the list at all. But if you know that physical attraction is something that's very important to you, if you don't write that down, or if you aren't honest with yourself, what could happen is you get into a relationship and you feel guilty and obligated to be in this relationship because you get along, they're a Christian, you can see some potential. However, you're not attracted to them, and you know that it's very important to you specifically, not to everybody, but for you, you have something that you want to see. And if you're not, if that person is not exactly what you're looking for, then if you were to get married with them, marriage wouldn't solve that issue inside of your heart. So either you can be honest with yourself about what your preferences are and be with someone who meets those preferences, or you're honest with yourself and say, hey, this is not a high priority to me. Looks are not a high priority to me. And so that is really dependent on what matters to you. Now, if looks are important to you, do not be dishonest with yourself, because I mentor women. And so you can say what you want in the comments, but this is out of the mouth of people that I have had conversations with. This is real life stuff, guys. People on the outside, on the paper, everything looks good. Hey, we get along, our families get along, like our purposes could somehow align, but like that attraction piece, like he's not what I'm looking for. I'm comparing him to my ex. Even when I have been close to him, I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want, and I'm afraid of getting married to him and not being attracted to him. I'm genuinely nervous that if he proposed, should I say yes or not? I'm not sure, because I'm not attracted to him. For people like that, be honest with yourself about your standards and about your preferences, so that those preferences don't become problems when you're married.
Yeah. And and if you are married, then like you just better grow to love. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But as Amanda said, you cannot allow for other people to determine for you what should be important for you when it comes to your preferences. The whole like having a relationship with Jesus, non-negotiable. But for many people, it's important that the person that they're with is working out and fit and in the gym, because they themselves work out, they're fit, they're in the gym. And so if that's the case, like you can't say, oh, don't let that be important to you, because like you ain't marrying that person. You ain't getting into a relationship with that person like they are, And so at the end of the day, in that same way, attraction works. Like there are some people who don't care whether or not they're attracted to the person. Like there's there are other things associated with their relationship that are more important. And if that's the case, that's totally cool too. Like, there's not a one-size-fits-all blanket right way to do this. But for the people who say, like, I want my, significant other to be someone who I wake up to in the morning and enjoy looking at, then that's really important, and you need to stick to that, because once you get married, I mean, at the end of the day, in 60 years, I'm not going to look like how I'm going to look, and she ain't going to look like how she going to look. You know what I mean? But, like, you don't have to, I just don't believe, we just both don't really believe in settling, like, on the things that are really important. You know what I mean? For some people, whether a girl is 5'7" or 5'5" or 4'10" or 4'3" or whatever, like that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But on the things that actually matter to you from a guy standpoint or for a lady standpoint, stick to that.
Yeah. So when do preferences become pickiness?
Ooh, when do preferences become pickiness? I believe, honestly, preferences become pickiness whenever there are preferences you have that are not a standard for your own life.
What about, give me an example.
Like we've been talking about it, like, I want somebody who eats healthy all the time, but you don't eat healthy all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you being picky. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to have this idealized version of someone.
Yeah.
And like, you don't even have that reality or that version like yourself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel like that's the case. That's important. What other examples maybe of when preferences become pickiness?
I think preferences become pickiness when someone has all of the essentials, the non-negotiables that you've written down. You say, hey, these are the preferences that are non-negotiables, and these are the standards that are non-negotiables. But maybe there's some that are on the bottom of the list that are a little bit minor, and they don't fit those. I think that at that point it becomes pickiness.
That makes sense.
Because you're not going to marry a mix and match type person. Like, this is not Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. Like, this is a real human being who's going to come as they are, take it or leave it. So there are some things that we've come to compromise. And like in the beginning, Michael was very much so a thinker, and I was all feeling. And I wanted somebody who was more feeling. He wanted somebody who was more logical. Mm-hmm. But we both came one another's way and molded and shaped with that, First time, one of the first times I talked to Michael, somebody asked Michael, what kind of girl you want? He said, somebody who's about 5'6", good and well. I'm a good 4'11", and I was like, I don't stand a chance with him.
This was before we were dating.
And so. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, that wasn't his highest priority.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like, he had other priorities. And so whenever you get, like, hey, have your standards, have your high preferences, and start from highest priority to lowest priority. And if they don't meet some of these lowest priority things, but they meet the most important things, hey, this is standards and preferences. Down here is pickiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to pick at people for the things that are making you picky. So you don't want to nag people on all these things down here that are not really big deals, because that could actually drive someone away. It can make them feel insufficient. It can make them feel like they're not good enough. It can make them feel not worthy. Mm-hmm. And here you are driving away a good person because you're trying to be picky. You're looking for like Amanda said, like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, trying to like mix and match exactly how you are, when you don't even realize that when it comes to marriage and relationships, God uses our differences to sanctify us, to make us stronger, to make us better, to change us. Like, there are things that you may want today that after you get married, you don't even want those things no more. And now you didn't try to mold this person into who you think you will always be and what you think you will always want, when you don't even realize 6 months from now, you ain't even going to want that. And here you are trying to make this person somebody that they're not,
Yeah.
So, like, you have to understand that whether not just even before you date or even while you're dating, but in marriage, like you go through so many different waves and seasons to where it's just like, I remember when I used to like that. I don't like that anymore.
So true.
And so that's just something you need to know.
All of that is really, really good. I just encourage everybody who's watching this video who is still single, dating, and even engaged, to just write down your standards. Not your high standards, but your standards, some of your non-negotiables and some of your preferences. And make sure that you're meeting that standard as well.
Anything you want to share?
No.
Awesome. Well, everyone, we hope you like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube video and channel. That way we can help get the word out and help more people like you as well as you. We are so grateful that you've come to our channel. Feel free to follow us on social media. Our Instagrams are in the description box below. And until next time, we will see you later. Bye-bye. Love y'all.